Welcome back. Fuller Marketing Roundtable guests this weekend, Brian Basting and Arlan Suderman. Brian, looking at the latest WSDA report out of USDA, a few changes. I mean, typically this February report isn't a big market mover, but we did see a few changes, including a cut to ethanol demand. Brian, was that a surprise?
No, it wasn't, Tyne. In fact, in our department here, we're actually looking for an even lower number in the months to come here. It isn't a dramatic decline, but it's enough to add a few more bushels to that carryout for 22, 23. So I wouldn't be surprised to see down the road as much as 25 to 50 million additional cut in that ethanol balance sheet line.
Arlan, we also saw some cuts to Argentina's crop, left Brazil alone. But when you look at Argentina, you look at that stretch of dry weather. You know, could there be more cuts to come? What is StoneX's official estimate at this point?
Yeah, when we look at Argentina, the drought has obviously been very serious there. And some of the local estimates now are as low as about 34.5 million metric tons. And I can't really argue with that as we look at the weather there and some of the comparisons to the 2008-2009 marketing year or crop growing year. There's a lot of similarities. There's still so much up in the air yet with the late planted crops. We had about half the crop that could still really benefit from the rains that got late January and continue in February if those rains continue, although they've still been below normal and it's been warm. I think something in the 30s is probably likely. The 2008-09 crop produced 32 million metric tons. So I think it's reasonable to think that we might drop that low, but we're comparing that with a crop north of there in Brazil that we're not there yet as far as our estimates, but could go as high as the upper 150s or maybe even 160, according to some analysis I've seen, because of how good the crops are in the center west region. So the bushels in South America as a whole are there. It's just how much can they barge down the Paraná River down to the crushing plants in Rosario to supply for the soy meal and soy oil that normally comes out of Argentina.
Brian, knowing that a lot could still change down in South America when it comes to that crop size, and looking at some of the changes that USDA already made, looking at those numbers today, does this week's report change your price projections any?
Not really from the standpoint of volatility, I think, Tyne. Anytime you're talking about some historically low carryout levels, not only domestically here in the U.S., but also looking at some world levels, we really have to look at the potential for volatility all the way through the U.S. growing season. So anytime you're talking about mid-February here in Argentina, anyway, the best analog I can share with your viewers is it's about mid-August in the U.S. It's a kind of a rough analog, but we know how volatile things can get in mid-August with regards to soybean yields. So I'd remind your viewers that this is the time to defend your balance sheet, provide a floor underneath the market, not only for any unsold 2022 bushels they may have remaining, but also it's not too early to look ahead to these 2023 bushels. A lot of attractive pricing opportunities out there already for 2023. However, if we look at the balance sheet for 23-24 time, I know that's getting ahead of ourselves a bit, but I think that the balance sheet for 23-24 could definitely be an increasing stock scenario, but obviously a lot of moving pieces between now and then. But I just remind the viewers that today, these are some historically high prices for new crop. So I strongly encourage them to consider that and look at some risk management strategies to get started if they haven't already on 23 pricing.
Okay, then Arlan, short term though, when you look at that Brian kind of painting that picture, what could happen longer term, looking short term here, are there any possible bullish stories brewing?
Well, another one that's not getting much attention, I think, is in the Black Sea region. We built quite a risk premium into commodity markets when Russia attacked Ukraine last February 24th. Virtually all of that risk premium has been taken out of these markets. And if anything, the risk is going up. We're seeing an escalation of risk in the Ukraine area that could further reduce commodities going out of that area. Russia seems to be preparing for a spring offensive. We're also seeing talk of not only tanks from the West going into Ukraine, but now maybe fighter jets and longer range missiles. So this thing is really escalating. And Russia has said, we have the tools. We're a nuclear nation. We have the tools to win the war, We're not going to lose this. So we're talking about something that's continuing to escalate. And I think the commodity markets need to recognize that risk.
All right, what about on the demand side? I mean, are there any watch outs there or any areas of opportunity? We'll get into that later on U.S. Farm Report. Please stay with us.
U.S. Farm Report is brought to you by Golden Harvest. Broad adaptability, high yield potential, solid agronomics, great late season health. The foundations of a successful season start with Golden Harvest game-changing corn. Find your hybrid at GameChangingCorn.com.